Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and we have some really good questions again this week. Once again, I want to thank everyone for the support of my family. I just really appreciate it. I don't know when I'm going to stop thanking y'all. Maybe never. It's just been really neat, and it's been really neat for my extended family to see how much inside the Red Raiders and the Red Raider nation and family in general has supported us. It's been really special. But like I said, we have some really good questions here in the mailbag. So let's start with Texas Tech Austin, who says, who comes closer to winning a championship this year? Texas Tech golf or baseball? Ooh, that's a really good question. You know, normally I would say baseball, but golf's had a really good year. And baseball has had a lot of injuries. I'm not saying they're not going to the College World Series. I'm just saying that they have a tougher road than normal because they have had an unusually high rate of injuries this year. So that's really, I'm going to say golf by default. Though golf, I mean, has been amazing this year and has a really good chance to have a great finish to the season. Next one comes from ex-Saddle Tramp, who asks, what are the chances that Tech only has Tyler Shuck, the quarterback transfer from Oregon, for 1 year and he goes pro? He said he'd think the chances are pretty high, and that if that happens, Tech would have to have a pretty good year. I agree with that second part. He said he also it could depend on how long in the fall before he takes over as number one. Soon too, he'd expect in that regard. No, I think he already is the number one in all, but it's stating it publicly. If you looked at the end of spring ball, though Henry Columbia was still receiving the first snap with the ones, a lot of times it was just the first snap, and then Shuck would get several of the rest with the first team. Bottom line is Tyler Shuck is very talented. He came into play to start right away. He has done nothing to take away from the thought that he'd be the starter. He is the starter. It's my opinion he was starter as soon as he walked on campus. Now, on the other hand, Henry Columbia had a great spring. So, I mean, there is that. Which is good. I think this is what you want to see. And then there's Donovan Smith, Baird Morton. The guys look good. But Shuck is the guy. And could it just be a 1 year deal? Absolutely. I think it could be a 1 year deal. I mean, he's already graduated from Oregon. Though he does have 3 years of eligibility remaining, he's already on several draft boards. Mel Kiper's mentioned him in stories and stuff of intriguing prospects to watch this upcoming season. So Shuck has a lot. I mean, his arm talent is self-evident. He is one of those guys who makes the defense play the entire field. He can throw from hash to from the far hash to all the way to the sideline, put it on the money where, to the point that DBs can't get to it, so he can make all the throws. He's got some speed, great size. He's got a lot of weapons to work with. I think there's a very good chance that Tech wins 7 or maybe even 8 games. I know I'm getting into crazy talent territory, but I think Tech can win 7 games. That's my prediction. And I think Shuck's a big part of it. I think he elevates them by at least a couple of games. And then the fact Tech has a pretty good schedule set up. Pretty easy non-conference, relatively speaking, and then some opportunities in conference to get some wins. So I think there's a very good chance Tech only gets 1 year of Shuck. The good news is you have Donovan Smith, you have Baird Morton, even Henry Columbia there if you need him for a bridge for a year for the younger guys. So I mean, all of this is healthy. All these thoughts and things. If you were to send another quarterback into the NFL, first off, imagine what that would do for your quarterback recruiting. I mean, that could be huge. And second of all, what could it do in terms of your transfer recruiting? You already had Zach McPherson, had a very good career here after transferring and get drafted. Where it wasn't getting playing time at Penn State. He comes in, 2-year starter, all-Big 12 performer, drafted in the 4th round. I mean, that's pretty nice. That's nice to have. You're already recruiting better at linebacker because of how you developed Jordan Brooks, though you didn't. He was from the previous coaching regime, and then, like I said, Chuck comes in. If he tears it up, Tech wins more than they have in a long time. go to a bowl game, he looks good, he gets drafted. That's all healthy. Next guy steps up, and then you can recruit some more talent, which is great. So I think that's all healthy. I think it's definitely a distinct possibility. Excel Trim. All right, Texan44 says he knows there will be plenty of breakdowns to come, but as I previously mentioned, the opener versus Houston at NRG is a huge game for the season. He said, can I talk about how it may play out? He said he assumes Tech will be favored by 7. I do think Tech will be favored. I don't know if it'll be that by that much. It's in Houston, but it's still not, at Houston's stadium. So, basically, I still think there'll be perhaps at least as many, if not more, Tech fans, even though it's in Houston and at NRG. It is at a neutral site. So I don't think there's going to be any kind of big, home crowd type deal advantage for Houston. So it's going to be, we know now it's going to be 6 p.m. on ESPN at NRG Field. That's pretty sweet. It's just a big game in terms of national exposure early on. Texas Tech can really flex and show what they have in the opener. Show Tyler Shuck, all these new transfers on defense, and just how they develop, how Texas Tech has developed this team and this roster over the offseason. In terms of X's and O's, honestly, I haven't gotten into where Houston is exactly, and I wasn't prepared to this week. I'm just not going to do it because it is early. But just a general idea. Obviously, Houston's trying to turn some things around under Holgerson down there. Had a rough year last year. Let's put it that way. And I don't think they're as talented as they were even a couple of years ago when Tech beat them a couple of times, both there and at home. It's set up for Texas Tech to get the W. Now, I'm certainly not saying it's a done deal, or I'm just expecting Tech to have a cakewalk or anything like that. Not at all. I'm just saying that if they're going to have the type of season, I just said earlier in the mailbag, I think they'll win 7 games. If they're going to get to that number, they have to win this opener. You win this opener, you have a couple of cream puffs before you start conference. I think you have some very winnable games in conference. I think TCU, Baylor, Kansas, obviously, all of those are very winnable. Kansas State, perhaps as well, is a winnable game. And then Oklahoma State, you've played them tough. So I feel like there's a real opportunity there for Texas Tech, but they got to win that opener. Win that, Florida International. You just got teams you should bury. So you should start off 3-0. Get that big W on primetime, ESPN, all that at NRG. That sounds so good. And then roll into conference and see, with some confidence, and see what you could do with better quarterback play, better overall talent on defense at every level of the defense. So, how good is it? I think we're going to find out. And I think I'm not saying we'll know just how good the team is overall from that Houston game, but I think we'll know where the focus is. The whole we, us, are they really playing for Coach Wells? Are they really playing for each other? Have they really taken a step as a program and as just college football players, the guys that remain? And how much of an impact are the guys going to make that are coming in? All that, I think we will get a lot of answers from that first game, and then we'll see where they go from there. But I do think Tech will win that game. I think they should win that game, and then I think it'll set up the season for some success. Now, it's not going to be wild success, but more success than we've seen around here in quite some time, which could be quite the foundation for this program to maybe get back to respectability. I think where maybe fans could have pride in their team and their program, and actually look forward to the season and some games, all that stuff. So it all starts, like you said, in that opener against Houston and Energy, because if you lose that game, things are going to go negative really fast around here. It's going to be tough to overcome. So it's huge. It's a huge, it's as big of a season opener as I can remember, to be honest. Joe Leaphorn wants me to describe what opportunities, without risking NCAA rebuke, which is kind of a joke, are available for the incoming basketball players to bond as a group and with returning team members. He wants to know if they could use the Wobble and all that. It's my understanding, Joe Leaphorn, that Tech can use the Wobble, like the players, the ones that are on scholarship, like starting in June. Whenever the semester starts, that summer semester is, and I don't have the calendar in front of me, but start going to class, school starts, the team is on, on campus, they can start using the Wobble, which is going to be pretty exciting. I can't wait to see some of the photos and stuff and them working from there, and it'll be interesting to see the staff working with the guys and all that. They're very limited in terms of how much they can during the summer, and the rules have changed a lot, but I believe they can for a limited amount of time every week. But I know the players can use the Wobble. That's what I've been told, starting in June. So that's great. What a beautiful facility. Double T Farmer had a couple of galleries. Stephen Chapman, our fantastic photographer, from the Wobble on the ribbon cutting day, where you get to go see everything. And just really great photo galleries. So check that out if you haven't yet. They're free galleries. In terms of one of the things that this program's done recently is the whole retreat where you go out to the wilderness and, literally hold hands and sing Kumbaya and all that stuff. To kind of team bond. And it's worked to varying degrees. Obviously, the success they had with some teams they put together in the last second, specifically the Final Four team, was impressive. But then the last couple of years, I don't know, were they that tight? They were okay, But the way everybody spread after the season doesn't suggest that they were very tight necessarily. But we'll have to see if they're going to keep that tradition going, or if Coach Adams is going to come up with another tradition. There's going to be a lot of basketball camps coming up, so a lot of old players will be coming in, and Coach Adams is going to have his camps and all that. So there'll definitely be a lot of activity. We'll have to see with recruiting too, like who could come on campus and what they can do, all that when things open up. There's going to be plenty of chances for the new teammates to bond starting in June. All right, I love this question. 5280 Raider asked me to break down my go-to sandwich, bread type, delicious meat choice, condiments, all that stuff. Well, I tell you what, my favorite, and my wife used to make this. She made this a lot during COVID. When we were obviously staying here and everything. But she would make these Italian subs, basically with multiple meats like ham and salami and basically whatever else we had, with like a provolone cheese on an onion roll, which she would glaze, her own glaze. She made her own glaze, and it's how do you eat like two at a time, man? I have lost weight, so it works. But man, she would make four at a time. It'd be really hard for me to not eat two at a time and then one later, just leaving her the one. But she would let me most of the time because I love that sandwich. But she also made a pretty dang ridiculous, and she's going to in the future. But I'm saying here lately she hasn't been cooking. But she makes a really mean meatball sub, which she makes the meatball from scratch, and just with the sauce and everything she uses. That's typically like some kind of hoagie roll, like a white bread. And then she's big on, and I don't know how nasty this sounds or not to y'all, but she'll use vinegar and all this stuff, but she'll put like sometimes either mayo or even Miracle Whip. She'll sneak that in there. She loves Miracle Whip. I like it, in the right amounts with the right type of sandwich, but I wouldn't say Miracle Whip is my go-to condiment. So, but she was sneaking in there and had a little sweetness to it. That was like, wow, it was really good. Here lately, I'm going to go commercial here, and they're not paying me a sponsor or anything like that, but they were. They used to be. We used to do some of our, this is our 5th year of doing the Rock and Pregame, and we've gone to so many places and restaurants and bars, and we still do it during the football season, across the street from the Jones and game day, 2 hours leading up to kickoff, right there at the Red Ritter Outfitter. But one of the places we did after football season for like the first 2 or 3 years was Firehouse Subs at a couple of locations. And they would give us a free sub for every show. And I tried a lot of them, but the one that this is my sandwich. This is one I really want a good sandwich. And it's kind of pricey for being a sandwich, but is the Italian sub. And I'm just going to read off the ingredients rather than try and recap it off my memory. But man, I love this. I get the large one. It's like 2 meals. I eat half one time and half later. It's just delicious. It's loaded with Genoa salami, pepperoni, Virginia honey ham, melted provolone, Italian dressing, and seasonings served fully involved. Fully involved means loaded complete with mayo, deli mustard, lettuce, tomato, which I normally get the tomato off. It gets to me the tomato makes it too soggy. So I like tomatoes all right, but just, I get it all. I usually take it off of the sandwich. But the loaded complete with mayo, deli mustard, lettuce, onion, and a kosher dill pickle on the side, which you got to have. And I normally just get on white bread. I like wheat bread fine, but on this I'm just like, I got wheat a couple times and it didn't taste as good. So I said, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it right. So that's if I'm go out, and Jersey Mike's is good. I like that. Don't get me wrong. Jimmy John's, we got food. My wife and I got food poisoning. I don't know, within the last year or so. So we don't do Jimmy John's, and I never really understood the hype around Jimmy John's. It's just fair, But this Italian sub at Firehouse is the real deal. That's my go-to. All right, Teeny Pepper says this new French kid, Daniel Batcho, is intriguing. He wants to know if I think this is a project for a year or two down the road, or does the kid have the talent to play meaningful minutes this year? Well, those are actually two different questions, because Daniel Batcho, 6'11", 240 big, yes, originally out of France, who's transferred into Texas Tech from Arizona, has the talent to play immediately. He has the talent to start and be a real factor big at Texas Tech. That I have no doubt about. Now, what I do doubt, or my concerns regarding Daniel Batcho, all start with the injuries. He also had like an illness that cost him some time. So, bigs with knee injuries scare me. I'm a diehard. I'm a Mad fan for life. Kristaps Porzingis, his knee problems, they scare the heck out of me, because they're a different team when they have him in there, specifically offensively. When you have a 7'3" guy who can knock down a 30-footer, that changes your offense. But you can't count on him, because his knees always hurt. He has some other injuries before, but really it's his knees that just continue to set him back. And I wonder if Daniel Batcho is going to be similar. 6'11", those big guys, all that weight on his knees. Once you get an injury, and I remember in my playing days, I had friends who, they tear their ACL, come back after a year or two, and then they, everything would be fine. They'd be dunking and stuff. They look good, and then they hurt it again. It's just basketball with knees. It's difficult sometimes for bigger guys to overcome. So that's it. If he's healthy, I think he's going to be a factor immediately. Healthy and confident on that. If he's not, then it might take a year or two, but I still like him more as he has more talent than any of those Putnam guys, let's be honest. And I definitely get why they're taking a chance on him in terms of the injuries, and they may think, they're not taking a chance, they feel very confident about it, but to me, it's a chance, because it's a roll of the dice because of those injuries. Just it is. But if he stays healthy, he's confident, all that, look out, because that could be a big difference for Texas Tech. That could really change the way we look at them. But we'll just have to see, how it shakes out, if he's healthy or not. All right, this is an easy answer for me. But I completely get why you asked the question. That's why I included it on this edition of the mailbag. OBX Raider asks, he says, do I think the NCAA will revisit the transfer rule with the obvious tampering going on, or do they put their heads in the sands? I think they're going to put their heads in the sand, because that's what the NCAA does. We've seen people just get away with things time and time again. It's interesting who gets punished and who doesn't. You could literally admit on tape from like FBI tapes, so on the up and up, most likely, where coaches are admitting to bribing players and they get away with it. Basically, don't get in trouble, whether it be LSU coach or Bill Self at Kansas having his drama and being okay, not really suffering anything major. What about Coach K with Zion? There's a lot of smoke there. It just doesn't seem like anybody gets punished for any of that stuff anymore. The days of SMU getting the death penalty in football. You're just not seeing that. Even like the Fab Five had to take their banners down for, I don't even remember exactly what all it was, but everybody knows in this business that college basketball is the dirtiest of the dirty. I mean, it has been, it's going to be for the foreseeable future, and we also know that the NCAA is toothless. So they cannot aggressively go after their cash cow, and their cash cow isn't football because they don't put on those events like the postseason events. It's the NCAA tournament, and if the NCAA tournament goes away, like for good, not just with like COVID for a year, if it goes away, then the NCAA will cease to exist. It's just that simple. So they can only do so much. They're toothless, and the way with money getting bigger and bigger for these coaches and these programs. It just seems like the NCAA has less and less power, and the coaches, and then now the players with the ability to transfer and everything have more and more power every day. The NCAA less so. So I said it was an easy question, and I talked for a while. But bottom line is, to answer your question, I absolutely think the NCAA is just going to stick their head in the sand and hope for the best, and ride the cash cow as long as they can. So, well, that's going to do it for this week. Great questions as always. Thank you very much, and until next time.